life. Most men these days are cut off from other men. Most of us lack almost any male friends, let alone brothers. So think about it. In our father's time and our grandfather's era, men could usually be found hanging around barbershops or sports leagues or even male-dominated work environments where men could be men in an unapologetic way. Now it's just not like that, is it? Most work environments are mixed gendered, and the old school male environments are all at risk of extinction. So what's this have to do with anything? This is talking about brotherhood. See, as a man, we need a male confidant. Airing your dirty laundry at home isn't the best thing to do. Now, I'm not advocating that we're to lie to our spouses. What I'm saying is to get with a group of men who have your back and work out your shit before spilling your guts to your wife. See, we get ourselves in so much trouble because we don't have the space or the environment to work out the details. This is why all men need to belong to a brotherhood. You see, a brotherhood is a bond created between two or more men, where each individual is allowed to be allowed and encouraged to live life to the fullest, to seek more comfort from a group of men that can share similar values and beliefs about what it means to be masculine and a man. See, a brotherhood brings out the best of the individual and at the same time raises the bar for how the group responds to life in general. It's being committed to not only your growth, but the growth of our fellow brothers. It's speaking with compassionate truth at all times. I really like how David H. Wagner describes in his Brotherhood in his book called Backbone, The Modern Man's Guide to Purpose, Passion, and Power. So let me read this to you. If you want to have a good, solid, masculine backbone, you need to have some brothers. Brothers are different than just buddies or pals. Brothers are men that you can count on and on who can count on you. Brothers are men that you feel genuine love and devotion to. You'll sacrifice for a brother. You'll even take a bullet for a brother. You see, your men are your team, and every man needs a team. Your men will be there for you to pull you up when you're down and applaud you when you're doing great and bust your balls if you're getting a little too arrogant. But to have this kind of great support, you need to have good men in your life. I couldn't agree any more with that. So let's talk about what does it look like, or what does it you need to do to be a good brother. See, I'm sure you can describe what a good friend and a good brother is, right? But there are attributes that we can look to that we admire for camaraderie and for friendship. So I'm sure you can come up with a few, but for the band of brothers specifically, I wanted to point out a few key characteristics that make up a strong brother in our brotherhood. And here they are. There's 5 of them. First one is love. Now, I got these 5 from an article that I thought just really summed everything up. And it's from a website called allprodad.com. So here we go again. So the first characteristic is love. Now, this goes way beyond warm feelings and a bond. Love is a choice. It's about putting someone else before oneself. It's about giving someone else honor. All the characteristics below are born out of love. We were created to love and to be loved. It's the deepest human need. So here's a question for you. Is there a friend who you have loved without looking for anything in return? Here's a second characteristic: sacrifice. Being at someone's side, regardless of the cost, it's a willingness to give up things of significance worth for the benefit of the other. And we can sacrifice in a lot of different ways, can't we? It can be showed by traveling through, a considerable distance just to be with a friend. And I think about that. Today we won't even drive 20 minutes, let alone drive 40 minutes to go to be with a friend in need. It can also be shown in much smaller ways, like losing a little bit of sleep because you're taking that late night phone call because your brother needs you. So here's question number 2 on how to live the virtue of brotherhood. In what ways have you sacrificed for a friend lately? Let's move to 3. Third characteristic is faithfulness. Being dependable through good times and bad. Sometimes your friends can truly count on you, and you endure and are consistently reliable. That is a key. And when things were at their worst, Shugart and Gordon were by Durant's side. Now, these were two gentlemen in this article that they're talking about who were at war fighting for their brothers and actually ended up by losing their lives in order to save their wounded comrade. See, they shared the burden when they really didn't have to. So question 3 on faithfulness. How can you share in a friend's burden? 4, let's look at honesty. Honesty as the 4th characteristic. Someone willing to be truthful, even when it's hard. As iron sharpens iron, so does one man to another. You see, we sharpen one another by holding one another accountable when we get out of line. It takes courage to say difficult things when we see a friend going down a destructive path. This is what I mean by talk about having compassionate truths or speaking compassionate truth. We have to be willing to be vulnerable to our weaknesses first in many circumstances. So here's question 4 for this part of the virtue. Is there a friend that you can be completely real with? And I would add to that, is there a friend that you haven't been completely real with? And think about that. Here's the 5th characteristic, trust. See, faithfulness and honesty build trust, don't they? You have won your friends' full confidence when you can display those two things. This is what's earned from us. Trust is not given, we earn it. And as we do this over time, the bond will grow deeper and we become a stronger brotherhood. We become brothers in arms. And here's the 5th question on trust. How much trust have you earned with your friends? See, these characteristics, they all feed into one another, don't they? And so it's up to us as men to learn how to build on these characteristics in order to live the virtue of brotherhood. So I have 2 final questions for you, and then we'll get into the assignment. First question, do you have any good men in your life? I know it's yes or no, but can you think of 2? Think of a few. You're going to need to in a minute. And which of the 5 characteristics that I just outlined do you need to work on the most? That's a tough one, I bet. So listen, brotherhood is a combination of individual effort and group synergy. It is upholding shared values and respecting differing ones. Being brothers isn't always easy. There'll be times when we will disagree. And it is through these times that we learn to use the characteristics of a brother in arms. So the brotherhood gains strength and resilience. So here's the virtue lesson for brotherhood. Remember how I asked you if you had any good men in your life? Well, this is what I'd like you to do to help drive home the virtue of brotherhood. I want you to take some time and go back and list the main close relationships that you've had with men, along with any other male relationships that ended painfully or mysteriously. I want you to think about that, because for men, when we end relationships with another man, we'll just cut it off. And we won't necessarily deal with it or address anything that's going on. So I'm looking for you to create a list with 2 different kinds of men. One that you've had close relationships with and maybe still ongoing or in the past. And in that same list, also the male relationships that ended painfully or mysteriously for you. And then for each man on the list, I want you to write a few sentences about the good times you had, and then write about what caused the end of it. Here's a couple of questions to help you in your thinking through those. Why did you part ways? What resentments were you still harboring? Now, this exercise is going to challenge you to be brutally honest about your part in these relationships. Were you truly a good friend? And if not, what did you do or did you fail not to do that contributed to the breakup of this relationship? Also, I don't want you to be too hard on yourself, because it is about learning and growing, but also don't blow it over either and not be too easy. So really dig into this. The important thing is that you want to find out what the cause was from your own perspective. And you might find yourself feeling a little bit sad or feeling a bit of loss and grief because you're realizing and recognizing the loss of these friendships. And that's okay. You got to feel into it, and you'll get inspired from that feeling. And then when you're done, I'm going to ask you to do one last thing. If you have an opportunity, reach out to some of these men and connect with them, reconnect and build that bridge. It may or may not work depending on where they are in their life, but at least you've done your part. That's it. It's not that challenging, I don't think, for us to do, and it's something that's important in order for us to learn and grow the virtue of brotherhood. Aho, my brothers.